So you want to know the best hip flexor stretches. Well, there is one thing that you need to do before you even try and stretch out your hips, because it's very, very common. Most people suffer this, and today we are going to reveal all. We've got a super special guest on the show today. We'll introduce him and get into the topic right after this. We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image. We're back, and in case we haven't met, my name is Yanni Baumeister. To my right is my brother Rad Baumeister. To my left is our personal go-to physical therapist, Tom Cartwright. We have a big show in store for you today. We are the gym here that teaches people how to move and nourish instead of diet and exercise, and we're going to be diving deep into what can affect hip mobility and the best ways to release it. Tom, you are a killer chiropractor. You are a very, very good soft tissue therapist. What else do you do these days that's not just awesome? Ex-professional tennis player.
Semi-professional, I'd say. I got caned on the pro circuit. I enjoy not drinking alcohol and not smoking or taking drugs.
Good.
I've just moved to Turramurra.
Yeah.
I'm like majorly boring. So
You're pretty much a soccer mum now, dude.
Yeah, that's right.
I put all my energy into work.
That's right.
And you know, perhaps that's why you think I'm so good. But I'm humbled.
I'm always really excited to get Tom on the show, because Rad and I talk about this a lot. Finding practitioners to work with, remedial therapists and practitioners that have skin in the game. And Tom is certainly one of those guys. He trained, other than the fact that he just is a specimen, he trains every day, and he's been at a very high level of sport before, and he knows what the demands are on the body when you exercise. So that's super important for us.
I hope you can live up to that now, Tom.
Yeah, that's
I reckon
right.
I can.
That's right. So what we're talking about today is hip length discrepancy. Both Rad and I have a leg length discrepancy, I should have said. And there are a few different reasons for leg length discrepancy. Why don't you first of all fill us in? Like, there's obviously the bone structural issues.
Well, let's let Tom fill us in.
Yeah.
Well, the issue of leg length discrepancy is a tough pill to swallow. When I first came across it at uni, I was like a short leg. But if you sit around and you contemplate it for a while, it's actually quite believable that we are asymmetrical. I don't think if you speak to anybody, they would be against that thought. It's very plausible that we could have one leg that has grown to be slightly longer than the other, either through the femur, which is your thigh bone, or through the tibia. They're the two major supporting things that we stand on. So that's the first thing. We are somewhat asymmetrical, and it's usually within the range of about 2 to 5 mil. So we don't even worry about that. Sometimes people will have an even greater anatomical leg length difference. It might be beyond 7 mil, say, and you might have seen people walking around with a special shoe, like an extra heel.
Yep.
Those things we can't really do anything about. The only other instance might be, let's say it was beyond 5 mil, but not quite as much as 7. You might have that leg length discrepancy, but it's not necessarily giving you any symptoms like back pain.
Yep.
Maybe it's about to, who knows?
Yep.
The second type of short leg we have is what's called a functional short leg. Some people call it an apparent short leg because apparently it's shorter, but if we were able to manipulate the pelvis in some way, we can bring them back to a more even keel.
Yep.
So the best two examples are a soccer player. So I know there's a few soccer players in your gym because I've seen them. But if, let's say in the case of a right-footed soccer player, picture that scenario where you're running to kick a ball, you plant your left leg very strongly into the ground, and then you swing your right leg. There's a lot of twisting going on like that.
Yep. A lot of velocity in the leg too, I guess. Yeah.
So if you're regularly flexing the right hip or the right ilium bone, you're relatively extending the left ilium bone or the left hip bone. And because of the way your legs connect into the pelvis, in that scenario, it will pull the right leg up and push the left one down. So it's because of the way the bones are connected and because of the activities we do. The other activity might be women sitting cross-legged like this all day.
Like you do.
It's a very small force, right? But if you do that for 8 to 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, over the span of a 30-year career, say, it's quite easy to understand, oh yeah, I could be slowly over time moulding my pelvis into a twisted position such that one leg's up and one leg's down.
Yeah.
So
that's an area that I really am fascinated with, the environmental impact that you have, like your sitting station and things like that. And I think that plays a much bigger role than people give credit to. You know.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're not all straight, and Rad's the best example of that, I would say. But
zinger comes in with a zinger.
But the other thing,
what's my leg length discrepancy then? Is that an apparent one, or is that a?
Yours is apparent, yeah. I mean,
you're full of defects, mate. We've figured that out already.
But we're all a little bit asymmetrical. We probably all have an anatomical short leg within 2 to 5 mil. How much of a functional leg length difference is superimposed upon that? It could be anyone's guess, and it comes down to how much of a soccer player you are, how much of a cross-legged sitter you are. Some people sit with one leg folded underneath their butt, and they do that all day. Lots of people watching this will go, oh geez, I do that.
Doing that.
Or they wear a fat wallet in the back of their pocket.
What about just the concept of like, you know, when you see someone standing, they lean on one side all the time. You know?
Before I became a chiro, I was working at Caltex, a petrol station, and you know, I was always leaning. But this is again why, if you come into my practice, on the wall it says it doesn't matter what direction, just keep moving. And that's pretty much in line with your philosophy. Absolutely. So long as you're moving regularly, it doesn't really matter what your posture is, because you'll be exercising enough differentiation through your skeletal structure such that you never give it a chance to mold or form into one shape. So everyone should picture their bodies as like an egg-shaped piece of clay. Okay, it's not bulletproof. Like, we're all subjected to the forces of gravity, you know, me bumping you or something, or taking a hit in the gym, be it from boxing or deadlifting, and think of the impact that would have on that perfectly shaped egg of clay. It's still going to resemble an egg shape, but it's a bit banged up. So you come and see me or whoever, and we just sort of smooth you out, and it's like, there you go. But it's not going to be perfectly symmetrical, and it's pointless to strive for you being perfectly symmetrical. Near enough is actually good enough. It's the same, what's that phrase, perfection is the enemy of good? Is that it? The 20% extra effort that we would have to go to get you beyond 80%, it's just not worth it, because you'll go straight out of the practice room and you'll go to the gym and you'll bang yourself up again. People think that it's important to be perfectly aligned all the time. It's not. Near enough is good enough, because you're going to get banged up. This
is a topic that we spoke about a lot last week, I think, about the concept of people catastrophizing their little nuances and issues, you know.
Don't sweat the small stuff.
Like preventing progress because they're so fixated on getting all the little things perfect, you know. And there comes a time when you are like directly stifling your progress by doing so.
I admire people's attention to detail, I really do. But it will, you know, it'll stifle their progression. It's, you know, it's like trying to do the perfect squat. Like, it probably won't, you know. We try to do the perfect squat, and by the 10th rep, the form's a bit crap. But if you didn't do that slightly crappy 10th rep, you wouldn't get the gains, you know.
Rad's a good example of this because of his
he's not
pelvis,
straight.
and he's that's right, and he's clearly not straight. But he's got quite a severe pars defect, and most people that saw that in an X-ray would have freaked out and like stopped squatting, stopped deadlifting, stopped lifting, and it would have. You know what? You explain. What is it like when you don't lift, when you don't exercise, when you don't move?
I hate it. It's the worst thing. There's nothing that depresses me more than not moving and not exercising.
Rad's a little bit depressed right now. You can probably see he's a bit more quiet than usual because he has been restricted to exercise until we get the MRI results back for his shoulder. And look at him. He's in a state.
He's annoyed.
But
it's a good point you raise. But the pars defect, for those people who don't know, it gives rise to a spondylolisthesis. That is forward slippage of a vertebra on the one below it. And it would seem counterintuitive to do heavy lifting, but the converse is true. You should actually not necessarily do heavy lifting straight away, but you should do some sort of lifting to strengthen the structures around it.
Yeah.
The very thing that causes you pain is often the very thing that you should be doing to reinforce it. It's like basic homeopathy.
Yeah.
It's just you got to tone the task to the case at hand.
Yeah.
And I went through so much pain and suffering, and I don't, maybe not pain is not the right word, it was discomfort, but there were levels of pain. Like the line between discomfort and pain is subjective, I guess. It's,
it is,
you know, like it's just down to the individual. And I did this 20 years ago when I knew nothing about the body. I wasn't a personal trainer. I'd never studied anatomy or physiology, and I'd never had friends like you who I could talk to. But there was just a voice inside me that said, you can't accept this and you need to find a way to go through it. And I just had this fierce determination to, no matter what. I remember the worst injury that I've ever had, acute injury, was I tore the Liz Frank ligament on my right foot. And if you don't know what that is, if this is your toes here, this is your big toe and these are the other 4 toes, and this is all connected by skin, so that's what presents as your toe, but as far as the bones go, they're all individual up until the metatarsals, is it?
Yep.
Up the top there,
yep.
And the Liz Frank ligament is the ligament that holds the big toe onto the rest of the toes at the apex of the foot. So it's normally meant to be like this, but I tore it and it was going like that. And the surgeons told me, they said, you'll never be able to jump again, you'll never be able to run again. I was 21 at the time. They said, by the time you're 30, you'll have arthritis, and this is all just statistics, it's going to happen. And all I remember the whole time in that conversation was, there's nothing that you can say to me that's going to stop me from being able to do what I want to do, even though they were showing me the x-rays of this is what's happened to your foot. And I know that's a bit of a tangent there, but the whole idea of it is don't settle for what you think that you've got that's going to prevent you from following your dreams. You know, you've just got to get up there and do it. And a leg length discrepancy or a pars defect or a Liz Frank ligament or whatever the fuck's going on in my shoulder now, like it shouldn't stop you. You know?
Yeah,
you got to just.
There's always room for progress, no matter what. And if you focus on progression, not perfection, you're going to be moving in the right direction.
Do you want to get out of the gym?
Let's get out. Now, we've got a couple of really cool little hacks that we're going to do to show you how to treat a leg length discrepancy that is not a massive bone structural issue. If it's a bone structural issue, I urge you guys to go and see someone like Tom. Irrespective, you should go and get assessed properly, because you can have specially designed orthotics made up to help you in your shoes and your footwear, things like that. Tom's got some pretty amazing tech down at his facility that tests all this stuff. But other than that, what we're going to do out here is a great little hack to get you going, and it will work for 80% of the people out there.
Can I just say quickly, on that note, my personal advice is, even if you've got nothing wrong with your body, go and see a chiropractor if you've never seen one before. A good chiropractor, and the way you're going to find a good chiropractor, in my opinion, is do a bit of research, look at their Google reviews, but see if you can find out if they're somebody that physically is active themselves. I would never personally get health advice from a doctor that's overweight. If a doctor's overweight and they're going to try to tell me how to be healthy, I'll laugh at them. And I think, in my opinion, it's the same kind of thing with a chiropractor or a masseuse or a physiotherapist. If they're not physically active or they're not working on athletes regularly, I wouldn't go to them. But go to somebody like that and see how amazing your body feels. Like one of our online members, Blakely, he took my advice on that, and he went to a chiropractor who he found that was into weightlifting and bodybuilding, and he said it completely changed his life. He could not believe how amazing he felt, and he went in there not feeling like he had anything wrong with his body. So that would be my advice on that note. So anyway, let's go.
Let's hit the gym floor. Guys, we're going to need to talk closely to Tom, because he's the one with the mic.
Yeah, so Tom, you're going to need to do all the talking now.
All right.
Talk people through what we're going to be doing.
Okay, so we're gonna do a little demo on how I might assess somebody very quickly and try to fix their leg length. So, Rad, lie down on the floor.
Face up?
No, face down. Face down. So, look, there might be a bit of misinformation here. Like normally, in a clinical setting, I'd have a bench. He'd be perhaps a little bit more relaxed through the shoulders, because his arms would be relaxed and his neck would be there. Are you comfy like that, Rad?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just pretend they're lying on a bench, and what I would do is, he's relaxed now. He's not exposed to gravity in the same way that he would be if he was upright. So I'm going to pull some slack out of his body. And Richie, you might want to come over here and get a bird's eye view of Rad's leg length here. So I'll sort of tug on his legs, and then I'll dorsiflex the ankles. And can we see here that his right leg is slightly shorter? It's not by a big amount. I'll just show you again there. Can you see that? Hopefully you can. I am just trying to pull some slack out of it to make that a bit more obvious. It's fairly minimal because Rad was actually in to see me just this week and I've adjusted him, but I think you can see that. So you can just take some towels like this. I normally have some chocks, like these triangular blocks that I can wedge underneath his pelvis, but this should be fine. So I find Rad's greater trochanter. That is the bony bit on the side of your hip. It's the bit that you hit when you wipe out. And I'll just lift him up. I'll slide the towel underneath that, and then I'll find his hip bone. It's the ASIS where women will often rest a baby, and I'll slide that underneath here. Okay, and then Richie, if you want to come back over here. Hopefully what you can see now is sometimes the right leg will be longer or the legs will look the same, okay? And yeah, near enough is good enough, remember? So we effectively have here, we have extended the right ilium and we've flexed the left ilium by creating a lever with the towel, or in my case, the block. So we're rocking this ilium this way and we're rocking this one that way. And the effect that is having is it's pushing this leg down and pulling this one up. And it's because the hips connect into the front of the pelvis. The acetabular, which are the sockets of the ball and socket joint, which is the hip, they're in here. So in Rad's case, it's as if this one is flexed and the left one has extended, as in like kicking with a ball. So you can see when I kick a ball, I'm flexing the right hip, I'm relatively extending the left hip. And you can stem from that further and say, my left glute is getting a real workout here. It's performing a very static function, but my right hip flexor is getting a very dynamic workout. I'm concentrically activating the hip flexor, so I'm working that one. So if you didn't have the means to do this, I would be saying to Rad, it's really important you stretch your right hip flexor and you sort of stretch your left glute. So in the case of a right-footed striker, I would guess maybe that they would have a strong left glute, a strong right hip flexor, a weaker right glute by comparison to the left, and a weaker left hip flexor. Yeah. And if you forget all this, you're like, I don't know what to do, then do both. Yeah. Stretch both glutes, stretch both hammies. You'll work out in your own body what is worse than the other. Yeah. While Rad's lying like this, I might do a bit of soft tissue work through his erectors, just the act of me pushing on his body and through his spine and, you know, down in his pelvis there, trying to encourage this rock, and through his sitting bone here, trying to encourage this rock on this side. It's helping the tissues relax into this new posture. Think of the pelvis as being bound by hundreds of ligaments, which are tight in one aspect, loose in another, and vice versa on the opposite sides. After a while, when we take the towels away, the legs should be even. And usually, particularly if somebody's in acute lower back pain, they will feel comfortable on these blocks, like or towels. Rad, you probably find this to be quite comfortable, yeah?
Right, yeah.
It's really comfortable lying on the block.
And how long would you say usually on average to sit there for?
5 minutes.
Yeah.
It depends sometimes chiros, they'll leave you in a room for like 15 minutes. I don't usually agree with that. I don't like being left alone that long. I think that's because they're obviously off treating somebody else.
Yeah, yeah.
It's fine if you're not on a time limit, or if they come back and actually spend a bit of time with you, but me, I stay in the room with them, and I'll do other stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're in acute lower back pain, many times I put people on the blocks and the pain goes away. They're like, oh, thank God. Yeah. So now I'm going to take the blocks away, and then you can come and see the results here. It's not always as great a result on people like Rad and you, Yanni, because you do exercise a lot, but you know, that's the result. And look, near enough is good enough. You can see that it's relatively even. Yeah. But I get big differences sometimes. So
yeah, absolutely.
So you probably want to talk into me here.
Quickly just demonstrate. I don't have the mic.
Yep.
We'll just quickly demonstrate a drill that we do here at the gym, as well as the tower drill. I'll get Rad hooked up over here. We use our elastic bands, the same bands that we use for a lot of our calisthenics drills, to do a leg pull. And it can be gentle or quite aggressive depending on the band and how much you resist the band. And this works really well as well. Now remember guys, there are things, like I know this question came about from Blakely asking when he goes into the front splits, he sees quite a lot of difference. While Rad's setting up over there, just quickly come over here. I mentioned this the other day. If I go into a front split on this leg, I'm fairly restricted here, okay? If I go into a front split on this leg, I can almost sink down to the floor straight away.
Far out,
now,
that's good.
That is because I've had my semimembranosus removed from this leg. I had a knee reconstruction on this leg. My semimembranosus was removed, so I've got a lot more mobility in this leg. And yeah, I've got to get close. I've got to embrace him. And so there's always going to be those asymmetry issues that you just have to work around. As I said, don't catastrophize it. You just do your very best with what you've got. Let's have a talk through what Rad's doing here.
So this here, what Rad's doing, is probably effective because he's creating decompression through the hip joint. I haven't tried this before. The only thing that I would guess here, which is important, is to really just relax and make sure this band is securely attached such that you can fully let go. Are you fully letting go? Yeah. You just got to know which leg.
Like this.
That's really good too. Yeah, just to jiggle it apart. It's just like if you're pulling apart two mechanical objects, you just want to try and wiggle it. And again, he could do this through both legs because they'll reach a point where they can only be stretched to a certain point and then they'll go back together and you'll probably be even. The point is, again, it's not so much about being perfectly even, it's about decompressing joints, unloading them for a period of time.
Yeah, yeah. And
it's a really good practice.
When we do this, before we do our really aggressive mobility, you do this drill on both legs and it'll feel totally different when you do your hip mobility, your front splits, middle splits, pancake. It really does feel good to decompress the hip joint, the acetabular and all of that's going on in here. Is it, you explain this to me, is it the, obviously all the ligaments that are stretching there, the labrum, that sort of thing, does that stretch at all, or does that stay fixed?
I don't think so. I don't know, to be honest. The labrum is it's a thin ring of ligament that attaches to the socket, which is the acetabulum. So imagine this is the acetabulum of the hip into which the femur goes. The acetabulum is around there just to deepen the socket and to enclose it. So I forget whether it's actually firmly attached to the femur.
Right,
I suspect not.
Yeah.
I can't remember. But look, if it is going to stretch, it'll be sort of minimal.
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt it. Is that what you were concerned
no,
about?
I'm just wondering what the actual what the mechanism is that's opening up, because it feels so good. It feels really, really good when you do it.
Yeah.
Let's jump back in and we'll wrap it up. That's awesome, Tom.
You're welcome. We're heading back into the studio now.
Heading back into the studio. Geez, you look good on camera. Look at that.
I do. I'm in the middle now.
You're there. No, you're there.
All
right. Well, guys, that was awesome. And that hack, as I said, as Tom said, when we go down to the clinic, he has these awesome little blocks that he uses, which are probably a little bit more specific, but you can absolutely do it with a towel. How did it feel with the towel?
Yeah, it feels great.
Yeah, really good. And the band drill is really, really good as well. It will certainly help to decompress and open up the hips. It's a great thing to do. We do a lot of spinal decompression with all of our hanging stuff, but you also need to think about how you do the pelvis as well. Thank you very much.
No worries.
For sharing
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I love coming here. It's awesome. You guys do a fantastic job.
We're gonna do it more often because these shows are popular. We've got a couple of people asking questions or making comments. What's
I think they're just comments.
Who is it? Who is it? That's so we can. Ferrographic, thank you for giving us an arm flex. Love your work. And Joe
Joe
Chi, you're a legend. Thanks for joining us. For everyone else who watches this afterwards on the replay, get into those drills. We're super excited. Now, last thing I want to talk about is what's happening next week. We have a massive 72-hour flash sale going live Tuesday morning PST, Pacific Standard Time.
No, Monday morning.
Monday morning Pacific Standard Time. Tuesday morning in Australia. And you do not want to miss this. Look out for the emails. If you're on our email list, then you're going to get the deal. If you're not on our email list, what are you doing?
Get on the email.
Get on the email list,
out.
yeah. And I'll put a link in the description of this video where you can download our flexibility blueprint. That'll get you on the email list. It'll also give you a truckload of great content you can go and implement into your training. It's time for us to get out on the gym floor and train ourselves. Over and out, weekly wrap, and we'll see you Monday. It's Friday for us here in Sydney, Australia, guys. Have a great weekend. We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.